Hi everyone, it's Simon here from Higher Plane Games. Hope you're having a great day. This is a review for Fast Striker, a 2D vertical shoot 'em up from East Asia Soft, and thanks to them for sending across a copy for me to take a look at. This is a cross-buy for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita, so if you get one you get both, which is fantastic. And it's really cheap as well actually, so thumbs up for that. The game is quite short though, so it's got 6 stages across 4 different difficulty levels, and each stage will have an end boss at the end of it. You've got a quite complex scoring system as well, so as you're shooting and killing people they'll all drop multipliers for you to kind of go round and collect as you go along. And your ship has 3 different weapons, so it's got a forward shoot, a rear shoot and a shield, and the shield you can use to kind of charge into enemies briefly before it runs out. And you can pick up power-ups to try and make some of your weapons a little bit more boostier as it goes along. What I did find though is that I couldn't quite find some of the rhyme and reason as to why some weapons felt like they'd boosted and some hadn't. And maybe that's just some of the mechanics of the game that I'd not quite caught up on. Probably because I was busy trying to dodge all the bullets coming towards me. This game is moderately difficult when you look at vertical shoot 'em ups, but the difficulty levels are really nicely played out. So I was able to complete it about 3rd time through on novice, which is good for me because I love bullet hell games, but I'm terrible at them. But I find them like a perverse challenge. I'm like, come on, Simon, you've got to keep going. So that was good. Original, I've not been able to get all the way to the end, but I nearly have. Whereas with Manic and Amaki, which are like the 2 hard difficulty levels, I'm like, and they're verging on not quite treasure-like, still like a step and a bit below that. But it's going to provide seasoned veterans of the genre a decent challenge on those difficulties, not on the early ones though. The 6th final stage though is hidden unless you go for those harder difficulty levels, so please bear that in mind, that if you want to see like the quote-unquote true ending, you'll have to go for hard modes. The screen itself is adjustable, but not necessarily going full screen from the get-go. The thing as well is that quite often with these type of vertical shoot 'em ups, if they're not going to put something full screen, they'll put something to either side to try and make it seem like there's a lot going on the screen when in fact you're actually focusing on the middle of the game. Fast Striker does not do that, so it does feel a bit bare bones, and although it runs at a constant 60 FPS, which I really appreciate because you need that for the precision, the colour palette is actually quite bland and dull, so levels kind of bleed into another, and there's a couple of levels that were slightly later on where actually the dark colour palette was mashing with the dark colours of the ships and the enemies that you're going for, and I found that actually I was dying quite a few times from just not spotting an enemy at all. Now I appreciate that there's lots of colours flying towards you because of all the different types of bullets, but it just felt like there needed to be a little bit more distinction between background and foreground so that I understood what I was supposed to be shooting at and avoiding, or just going, oh, I've died and I didn't even know why. Thankfully though, the collision detection for this game is great, so if you do need to really worm your way in between layers and layers of bullets, you won't feel cheated for cheap deaths, if that makes sense. As I said before, the game is short. The boss battles as well are a bit hit and miss for me. Some of them are really interesting because they utilise the forward and rear mechanic. I felt like the rear mechanic, the rear shooting mechanic, was really underutilised in the game. It only comes up a couple of times, but when it does, you kind of like, oh, quite neat. And the bosses that use that really stood out for me. The other ones though, all kind of felt very one-sided, vague. They've got one pattern or 2 patterns and then they're done. And actually I was finding that the bosses were less of a challenge because the stage to get there was so like full on. By the time I'd got to the boss I was like, ha, I'll take you on. And they were actually some of the least challenging parts of the game itself. So yeah, for me Fast Striker is, it's budget, but it's good budget, if that makes sense. You're not going to get bells and whistles, you're not going to get complete thrills all attached everywhere, but what it does well, it does fluidly, and it's really competently made. There is a physical edition of this available on Play Asia as one of those special ones where it's an Asian, all languages with English on and so on and so forth. Unless you're an absolute die-hard fan, I have to say that it's probably well overpriced for that because of how cheap the digital version is. And when you're trying to go up against physical releases like that, on a paying level where you've got the treasures and so on that are just really, really hardcore and they're put together, and Safari or Delta's just come out, those kind of stuff, I don't think it can quite hold its own up against those. But if you're looking for a budget shoot 'em up, this is a great place to go, and you've got 2 copies of it at the same time. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that was informative. Please do let me know in the comments what you thought. Bye for now. This channel is just one of my many projects that cover games, music and film. If you enjoy any of these and would consider supporting me to develop further in the future, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Satorimon. Thank you for your time and for watching the video.